Hello students. Once again, it's a pleasure to be with you. Today's topic in our professionalism course, the health professional and society, is reflection in health. We've put a few learning objectives for you, but you can read these on your own. I want to begin by just asking you a question. Think of a time when you changed your mind. You can see a cartoon on the screen there. Just something to laugh about. A guy orders scrambled eggs in a restaurant, and then he says he's changed his mind, and the waitress asks, well, he's changed his mind. In other words, how do you unscramble eggs? Or here we have another little cartoon. This is God talking to someone at the gates of heaven. Anything you'd like to walk back? Is there anything you'd like to change your mind on? Now, you might be wondering, why am I asking you this question? Have you ever changed your mind? I'm sure all of us have changed our mind. Maybe you got up in the morning and you wanted to wear one thing, and then you decided, no, I'll wear something else. Or maybe you were thinking about having something for lunch, and then you decided, no, I'll cook something else, or I'll make something else. And these are simple situations where you've changed your mind. But I want you to think about maybe a more complex situation. Maybe a situation in which you had formed an opinion about somebody, and then over a period of time through interacting with them, you changed that opinion. Or that might not be about a person, that might be about a matter of some importance. That might be a matter of who you might want to vote for in a particular election. Or maybe you had a very strong view about something, and something happened and you changed your mind. Now, the reason I'm talking to you about changing your mind is because that ability to change our mind represents a very human ability. And it stems from learning. The ability to change our mind and go in a different direction is because human beings have the ability to learn. And that has been core to the development of society and the progress of human beings. Now, often in society today, you hear the phrase wrong and strong. And it seems that people don't want to apply that principle of learning. They don't want to change their minds. Even though they're wrong, they want to stay the course. But I want to put to you that that's maybe not the best way of achieving success. Now, this ability to change our mind due to learning was encapsulated in a learning philosophy by a guy called Kolb when he started talking about in the 1980s, the experiential learning cycle. And this is something that kids do when their brain is developing. This is something that you do. And I just want to go through this cycle and help you understand it and help you understand the value of it. So if you look in the top left-hand corner, you see a concrete experience. So that's you. You've had an experience. And after that experience, you take the time to reflect about that experience. You take the time to consider that experience. You take the time to think about, did I learn anything from this experience? Did this experience change my mind about everything? And coming out of that, you can come up with abstract concepts like, you know, I think if I did this in a different way, it would work out better. Based upon those abstract concepts, you can now begin to experiment. And the next time you're having a similar experience, you can try your newfound considerations and you might find out, hey, that works. And suddenly you've discovered you've learned something and you're deciding to go in a different direction. An example that I often use is when I think about my teaching. After every lecture, I tend to just take a few minutes to reflect, to think about it. How did it go? Could I have communicated the information better? Was there a better way of explaining this to you so that you could understand it? Should I make this video shorter? Would you having it in smaller bite-sized nuggets actually help you learn better? All of these things go through my mind and represent part of my reflections. And then sometimes I experiment. So for example, I'm experimenting in this new series of videos by using Zoom and by using the background being, the virtual background actually being the PowerPoint. It might be a small thing that makes no difference, Or I might find out that you love it as a student and it helps you engage better with the material. Inside of this process, the key thing that I want to point you to is that power of reflection, the power of reflection. So let's talk about that a little bit. Well, the root meaning of the word reflect is to bend backwards. So when we're talking about reflection in this context, we're not talking about looking in a pool of water and seeing your reflection, or we're not talking about seeing your image in a mirror. What we're talking about is bending backwards, almost stepping outside of yourself to objectively look at a situation. And by objectively looking at the situation, gain insight and knowledge that can help you move forward. So one definition of reflection in the context of learning is it's the intellectual and affective. Affective means emotional activity in which individuals explore experiences in order to lead to new understanding and appreciation. You take the time to think and consider and to muse and to really look into something and say, can I learn something from this situation that allows me to go forward and allows me to improve? And remember what I said to you during our first lecture in this particular course, when I said, as a health professional, the vast majority of you are going to graduate. The vast majority of you are going to emerge into the professional realm. The question you should be asking yourself is not, will I be a doctor or will I be a dentist? The question you should be asking yourself is, what kind of doctor should I be? What kind of optometrist should I be? What kind of pharmacist will I be? And that means you as a human being and as a professional have to undergo evolutionary development and change and grow and mature. And reflection aids in this. Now, all of this might sound warm and fuzzy. It might sound like a good motivational talk. That's something that I'm just sharing with you. But I want to let you know that the General Medical Council in the United Kingdom, that's the body that regulates physicians, regulates doctors. They've introduced a new process where every 5 years, doctors have to be revalidated. That means upon first acceptance by the General Medical Council, that doesn't last for life. Every 5 years, you have to be evaluated, and that's an ongoing process. And this is one of the statements they made about the revalidation process and one of the requirements that they want to see. They've stated, the introduction of revalidation means every doctor who wants to maintain their license, regardless of the field of work, must regularly demonstrate they are reflecting on how to improve their practice and taking steps to keep their knowledge and skills up to date. And so the General Medical Council in the United Kingdom has set up a system, and they've said reflection must now become a hallmark of who you are as a doctor. In order to be a quality doctor and to maintain that over a long period of time, you can't just do things by rote. You can't just do things repeating the same thing over and over again without thinking about what you're doing, but you must be reflecting upon what you're doing and developing good practice. So that's why we're introducing the concept to you right now in your first year of health professional school. That's why we're talking to you, so you can begin to learn these skills from now. Now, the thing that we're going to focus on in our particular course is reflective writing. Now, I'm sure many of you might have thought, well, now I've come to medical school or pharmacy school, I don't have to write essays anymore. Well, unfortunately, I have to tell you, in this course, you're going to have to write some essays. Now, reflective writing is very beneficial. One of the things that happens when you're teaching a course like this particular one on professionalism and ethics and communications is that it often can seem very theoretical. By reflectively writing, it allows you to consider things deeply and bridge the gap between the theoretical things that might get discussed in class and actual experiences that you have. And that's one of the benefits of reflective writing. Another benefit of reflective writing is the field that you have now embarked upon for your career is a complicated field. There are many challenges. That's why you're doing a course on professionalism and ethics. And it can sometimes appear messy. Reflective writing allows students and it allows health professionals to think about the situations they're going through and to resolve them and to develop a plan for moving forward. So that's another benefit of reflective writing. Other benefits of reflective writing is it focuses upon you and your experience, and therefore again allows you to translate what you're learning into actual tangible benefit for you. And this is something that has been shown to not just have benefit for you to pass this particular course, but this actually makes you better at critical thinking. It improves your competence, and it makes you, and this is very, very important, it develops you into a lifelong learner. Sometimes we as students can become very examination focused, and that's important. In order to succeed, you must pass your examination. But the examination has a so that. The reason you pass the examination is so that you can be a practicing optometrist, a practicing dentist. And to be a practicing dentist, you must always be learning, because knowledge is accelerating and understanding is accelerating. And you can't say that you graduated from medical school in the year 2025 and the year is 2035, and in the last 10 years you've learned nothing new. And the process of reflection and reflective writing has been shown to promote continuing lifelong education. Reflective writing has also been shown to promote empathy and concern for your fellow man, and to promote how you interact and interface with your patients. It's been shown to promote critical thinking and to improve your communication skills. Just the whole process of reflecting on an experience allows us to access the fact that we're interfacing with other human beings. We learn to analyze things better. We learn to think more deeply and globally about a matter. And all of these things improve empathy, improve our communication, improve our critical thinking, which are vital to your success in becoming a good pharmacist. So one of the things I want you to appreciate is, even though you might find writing reflective essays challenging and it might be new to you, there is great benefit and you should apply yourself to it. Now, to make this easier, we're going to use a simple model that's used in many places in the world for reflective writing. And that's called the DIEP model. Each letter in DIEP stands for a word, so it's an acronym. The D stands for describe, the I stands for interpret, the E stands for evaluate, and the P stands for plan. And I'm just going to run through these 4 sections of the DIEP model very briefly. And for those of you who are working with me as your lecturer, you are going to discuss these more deeply inside of your tutorials. And you'll also get the opportunity to practice reflective writing and to look at examples of reflective writing using the DIEP model. So let's dive into each one of these things. So you can imagine that you're writing a reflective essay using the DIEP model. And you can think of that model now allowing you to have 4 paragraphs to your essay. Because at this point, we don't want you to have long 5,000 word essays, 600, 700, 800 words. Now, the first thing in writing a reflective essay is you have to describe what happened. And it's very important in describing what happened that in this part of the essay, you are objective. Describe objectively what happened. This is not the time to give your opinion. This is not the time to give your feelings about the matter. This is the time to focus on the important parts of the event and tell it in a clear and concise way. It's also not the time to try and tell a story, or what's called narrative writing. That's a different type of writing. So for example, you could start off your essay and you think because you want to describe it, you want to get all the ambiance, and you can say it was a very cold and gloomy morning. But it might simply be better to state this incident occurred in the morning. The addition of cold and gloomy is only relevant if that's going to impact something about what you learned or something about your reflections later on. If not, it might be wise to leave that out. So the first paragraph is your description, clear, concise, accessible to your reader. So they understand the situation you found yourself in, and you're able to communicate it to them. The second section is the interpretation. And now you are allowed to give your opinions. Now you're allowed to talk about how you felt inside of the situation. Now you're allowed to talk about what do you think was going on inside of your mind. This is now your personal understanding of what happened. So having described it in an objective manner, in the interpretation, now you give your perspective on the situation. And you know those two things can be very different. The objective situation might appear one way, but because of something that might have happened in your past, because of your mood or something that happened to you a few minutes ago, your entire interpretation of the situation could be totally different. So objectively, somebody can tell you, good morning, but you could interpret that as being very hostile, maybe because of something that just happened to you and your back was up a little bit, you were a little bit on edge. So the objective thing was your colleague told you good morning, but you interpret that in a way that might not be 100% accurate. Having given your interpretation, you now move on to the evaluation. And now you are able to come back to a little bit more objectivity. You start to evaluate the situation. You say, you know, I realize that maybe I interpreted that good morning in a wrong way. And that led me to respond wrongly. And maybe the reason I interpreted that in a wrong way is because I didn't give myself enough time to calm down after that bad experience I just had in the previous telephone conversation 5 minutes ago. And because of that, you know, next time I have a situation like that, you know, what I think I'm going to do is I think it might be wise just to take a few more minutes longer and just calm down and get myself centered again. That's the evaluation. You're now looking at the situation almost like from a third party and saying, okay, what can I learn from this situation? How has this situation been valuable to me? And how can it help me going forward? And this is where you get to connect things together and link things together and explain to the reader what your learnings are in the entire situation. Based on this, you should now have a plan of action. And you can now comment on how your insight, the thing that you have gleaned, can be useful to your future. And this is where you can specifically say something like, okay, I now understand when I've had an interaction that has left me a little bit flustered, it's left me a little bit upset, rather than just trying to rush into the next interaction I have, I need to take a few minutes and compose myself. I need to take a few minutes and just recenter and get my mind clear. And this will allow me to move forward. And if I take you back to the Kolb learning cycle, then next time that happens to you, you can try it out and you might find it goes a lot better. So that's the DIEP model. Describe, interpret, evaluate, and plan. And I want you to get familiar with those terms and you'll begin to practice those things, like I said, in your tutorials. Now, there are many videos online where you can see these things in action. And I'm going to encourage you to look at these videos. For those of you in my class, this video has been placed in your My eLearning portal. And so you can look at that video, which summarizes a lot of what we've said. I'll just play a few minutes of the video right now for you. That doesn't seem to be working, and I don't think I want to record this lecture over. So based on that, this is a little blurb that if I wasn't using Zoom, I could edit out. I'm not sure I'm going to do that, but this is a learning moment for me, and it allows me to reflect and consider how to go forward. So let me close by just saying that often health professional students find reflective writing challenging. And here are a couple of things they say. They say it's a waste of time. It takes too much of their time. Well, I want to say to you, yes, reflective writing will take time and it will take effort. And that's why I took the time to identify to you the benefits of reflective writing. And I want to remind you that you ultimately are going to be a health professional. The issue is not just the knowledge you gain, but how you can use that knowledge to help your patients and to help your clients. And inside of that, then knowledge is not just the only thing that's important, but how you communicate that knowledge and how you use that knowledge. And this is where reflective writing can help you. Many of you might also say, well, I don't need to write. I can just think and reflectively think, or I can just talk with others. And that may be true. But for many of you, you're young and you're now starting your professional careers. And taking the time to write helps you to develop these skills. And so that's part of the reason you'll be doing reflective writing. And finally, reflective writing allows you to begin to explore your emotions and your feelings. Very often in the health professional context, we ignore our emotions and we ignore our feelings. In fact, 20, 30 years ago, it would have been considered taboo for a doctor or a dentist to be talking about the fact that they have the feelings. Everything was supposed to be objective. Now, while objectivity is still required in the profession, we must recognize that our profession is a very challenging one. There are many complex situations that you will interact with. And there are many difficult life experiences that you will have to engage in. Telling somebody they might lose their sight, having to deal with death. All of these things evoke emotions and feelings. And reflective writing begins to teach you how to deal with these things. So I want to emphasize again, there's great benefit to reflective writing and to reflection in general. It's a key part of your learning experience. So as I end, let me encourage you to become a more reflective human being who is able to go through life and extract value from experiences. Sometimes the issue is not the fact that you made a mistake in an experience. Sometimes the fact is you're willing to learn from that mistake, accept you made a mistake, and actually get better. And that's the power of reflection. So let me end there and thank you for listening once again. And I wish you every success in your future career as you apply these skills to your life.